want to get to the emails that were sent to me by YouTube. And I know that this was like a targeted attack. Now, the reason why I know that this was a targeted attack is because all of the channels that I had under different emails, 3 different emails or 4 different emails, were completely shut down. So we have this one here. We'd like to inform you that we received a complaint regarding your YouTube account, the Red Elephants Vincent James. Upon review, we've determined that activity in your account violates our terms of service. As a result, we've terminated your account. Please be aware that you are prohibited from accessing, possessing, or creating other YouTube accounts. For more information about your account terminations and how our community guidelines are enforced, please visit our help center. Such just the epitome of the corporate control in America. I always laugh when, I hear some people, sometimes my neighbors will talk about this, sometimes close friends will talk about this. They'll say, they'll talk about China influencing the election. They'll talk about the communist Chinese. Alex Jones does this a lot. They'll talk about Russia influence. They'll talk about, all sorts of other foreign countries influencing our election and potentially bringing communism to the country. But none of them are really willing to acknowledge the power that corporations have in this country to control the minds of the masses, and not only control the minds of the masses, but engage in probably the most vicious assault on our elections ever. It's the corporations who are doing this. It's big tech who is doing this. It's not the foreign countries that we have to be concerned about, although we do have to be concerned about, foreign influences like China. Of course, Israel. They never talk about Israel in regards to spying on us or influencing our elections. But it's more so the corporations and big tech that we should be addressing in regards to influence on our elections and controlling the flow of information. You have to think about it like this, and I've been over this time and time again. When we talk about influencing our elections, or we talk about controlling the flow of information, we can look to Google, we can look to Twitter, we can look to social media accounts, we can look to Amazon. There are many books that I have purchased over the past couple of years that aren't available on Amazon any longer, and you can't get them on any other online bookstore. You can't get them in real bookstores. And so they control, pretty much most of the market in regards to books. Apple controls a lot of the market. Google is probably the most powerful company in the country. And all of these people are engaging in influencing our elections and controlling the flow of information to the people. This is why it's so urgent that the Republican Party make this a primary issue. But we just saw the recent agenda of President Trump released, and I couldn't find anything about social media censorship on his platform for 2020, which was very, not shocking, but I thought at least he would mention something, considering he has been censored on Twitter. He has had tweets completely deleted by Twitter. He has had tweets where they put fact check links under. And so I thought that after the censorship has been overtly directed towards President Trump, the President of the United States of America, I thought at the very least, this would be top 5 issue for the Republican Party, but it was nowhere to be found on his agenda. We're going to get to that as well. So anyway, 4 channels completely gone. None of them had strikes, by the way. I haven't had a strike since probably last year. I have had, within that last year, 2 videos deleted. However, I appealed them, and they were reinstated. I think one was put under an age restriction after it was reinstated. So I had no strikes for over a year on my main channel and no strikes at all on any of the other channels, basically ever. The second channel that was banned was Vincent James. This was the second channel with 61,000 subs. This was also demonetized about 6 months ago. And once it was demonetized, of course, the reach decreases pretty substantially. I started another channel just to sort of test the algorithms. Gained over 8,000 subs on that channel within a matter of just a couple of days. It was called The Daily Reaction. I was posting daily videos over there. This was also another account that was terminated. On August 21st, though, just a few days ago, I got approved for the partner program on YouTube. I got approved for monetization on that channel on YouTube just 4 days ago. So I was hoping that I was going to be able to extend my reach, since YouTube suppressed the reach on the 2 bigger channels that I had. And then, of course, there was a 4th channel that was completely deleted, which was entitled Conservative Fatherhood. And it was like a channel that was going to become like a weekly or bi-weekly vlog channel where I went and did things with my kids, like shooting at the shooting range, or, sort of very harmless content that was sort of implicitly political, but not really overtly, explicitly political like my other channels were. That channel was completely deleted by YouTube. We'd like to inform you that we've received a complaint regarding your YouTube account, Conservative Fatherhood, which had no content on it. This was a new channel, 12,000 subs on the channel. No content on the channel whatsoever. Upon review, we've determined that activity in your account violates our terms of service. As a result, we've terminated your account. Please be aware that you are prohibited from accessing, possessing, or creating any other YouTube accounts. And it goes on to say the same exact thing. I was the last of the remaining on the ADL list. I don't know if you guys remember this list, but Michelle Malkin is being targeted by the ADL right now. She's had a couple of articles written by the ADL and Right Wing Watch and a couple of other places. We're probably going to be discussing that tomorrow. But if I can find this link, it was an ADL hit list. Here it is, right here. Despite YouTube policy update, let me get rid of this stupid background on my TV here. Despite YouTube policy update, anti-Semitic white supremacist channels remain. And, of course, they mention True News, which has been banned. Steven Anderson, Pastor Steven Anderson, which has been banned. He created that documentary called Marching to Zion. I'm not extremely fond of Steven Anderson because of the things that he had to say about Catholics, but his content was good. Marching to Zion was one of the best documentaries that he created, and I've shared that documentary, and I still show that documentary. It still can be found on BitChute. E. Michael Jones was banned. He was on the list as well. Michael Hoffman, don't know who that is, but he's probably banned as well. Brother Nathaniel was on the list. He was banned. 12322, not sure who that is. Alt Woke, not sure who that is. Nick Fuentes was on that channel. America First with Nick Fuentes. He had garnered 38,000 subscribers and 845,000 views at the time that this was written. I think he was up to 70,000 subscribers or approaching 100,000 subscribers at the time that he was banned. Like I said, he was getting 70,000, 80,000, 100,000. I think he had one video with 100,000 views or 2 videos with 100,000 views. They always used to pop up in my recommended. He was doing really well with the reach there. American Freedom Party, don't know who that is. American Identity Movement. This is a channel that was banned as well. That's Patrick Casey, of course. American Renaissance. They were banned just recently. Jared Taylor and American Renaissance were banned, and Jared Taylor and American Renaissance solely focuses on his entire video. All of his videos were completely scripted, so there was no potential for him to, and like I said, I'll go over all the super chats at the end of the stream. There was no potential for him to sort of screw up like I do sometimes and go off and say certain things that can potentially get me in trouble, because his videos were completely scripted. I never script. I mean, I have a few scripted videos, which I might get back to on the BitChute now. But he was banned. Arctus, I don't know who that is. Krista, I don't know who that is. Faith Goldie, I think, was she banned? Was Faith Goldie banned from YouTube? Let me see. No, she's still up on YouTube. So she is the last remaining. Maybe I shouldn't have pointed that out there. The Foundry, James Alsop was banned. Ken Daly, NPI, Radix, Pastor Eli James, The Political Cesspool. I think he's still up there. The Public Space. I think they got banned. Red Ice TV was one that was banned. They were up on YouTube for 14 years. They had guests on their show like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro was a guest on Red Ice TV in 2014. You guys can probably find the clip online if you're interested in seeing that. VDare TV, they were banned recently. I think very recently VDare had their YouTube channel banned, although they didn't get too many. Okay, so they still have the radio podcast up, but the original channel was banned. I think they were banned and then they were lit back on after some pressure. But then they got banned again. Oh, also another person that was banned. Well, I guess we have the list up on the redelephants.com, so we'll get to that as well. So what I'm going to do, when people are asking, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, first of all, the first thing that I'm going to do is like not freak out or whine about this shit, because then that's just weakness. Just whining about shit like this. What the hell is this behind me? I have to keep going. I have to keep going. My kids do depend on YouTube. I mean, YouTube was basically like 80% of my income, even though I wasn't, monetized. I had this partnership program where I was able to, where I was doing commercials and stuff like this, paid commercials. My Patriot Supply. I'll still do like the affiliate stuff where I get a piece of every order, like the My Patriot Supply and a couple of other affiliate accounts, but I won't have that like steady stream of income coming from the prepaid commercials that I was doing on YouTube. So it's a big hit. It's a giant hit, but it's nothing to whine over. I mean, I just have to pick myself up and just keep going. I'm probably going to be bringing the show completely over to DLive. Live. Fuck it. We'll just do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live every day, Monday through Friday, probably early in the maybe like in the afternoon sometime. And then I'll post some exclusive video. I'll post all of the DLive streams to Subscribestar and Patreon. So stay subscribed over there. Go subscribe over there if you're not subscribed on Patreon and Subscribestar. $5 a month, you can get access to all of the deleted DLive streams and exclusive content I put over there. BitChute is also another place where I'll be posting probably, just standard short videos like I have been doing on YouTube. I'm still going to continue to do that. Maybe some very exclusive content over there, interviews, things like this. All of the links to all of the stuff, by the way, are below this screen that you're watching. So anything that you need to access, Patreon, Subscribestar, BitChute, Telegram. Telegram is a big one for me. I've built up the Telegram platform. It has almost, I think, 15,000 followers over there on Telegram. Instagram is another one, 30,000 followers over there, 30,000 followers on Facebook. Of course, you got my P.O. Box. My P.O. Box is below, so if you want to send something, Cash App, whatever. But a lot of people will say, well, why don't you just get a regular job? Why don't you just get a regular job? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get a regular job. The problem is I had a regular job. I worked for 13 years for an ad agency. I had some really big accounts. I had, Tyson Foods. I had Nike. I had some alternative marketing accounts, experiential marketing accounts. I did a lot of trade shows. I did a lot of displays, lots of printing. I used to work for this giant company that, well, it's not that giant. It was like a $70, $100 million company, a pretty decent-sized company where we used to print, giant banners. So I was in like the printing and advertising industry, large format specifically, and I worked there for 13 years. 13 years I worked there. And I was doing good. I was able to, purchase my first house at 28 years old. And this is without any education, but I have no college education. I didn't graduate college. I just knew people. This is why I put an emphasis on social capital, because it's extremely important. Everyone knows the saying. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? Everyone knows this saying. I made an emphasis when I was very early in age, when I was very young, to gather as many contacts as I possibly could, just in case I needed to reach out to someone in a time of need. And this is what got me most of the jobs that I worked at, right? But one day, for no reason at all, I got called into the HR management department, and I was above commission. Like I was good. I wasn't owing the company. So what they do is they set you up, like when you're in a sales job, because that's what I did my whole life, sales, right? What they do when they set you up in a sales job is you have commission against your salary, against your draw. They call it a draw. And what they do is basically, like, let's say you're getting a draw of like $4,000 a month. Let's just throw a random number out there. You're getting a draw of $4,000 a month. This is your constant, consistent income that you're going to get every single month. Now, if you sell, like there was like a 10% commission margin. If you sell $40,000 a month in product, right, in printing and advertising, then you will be equal to your draw because it's 10% commission. So you are just selling enough to pay for your salary. This is not acceptable at companies like this. This is completely unacceptable. You have to hustle way harder than that, otherwise you're going to be let go. I was well above my draw each and every month, and I'm talking about well above my draw. And when you're above your draw, you get 10% of that commission that's above your draw. But one day, for no reason at all, I got called into the office, and it was because people were passing around this article. Let me see if I can find it. It was from an OC Weekly. Here it is. This is the article. OC Weekly, which is like a very big newspaper here in Orange County. And it said, it was entitled, OC's Scariest People. It's the Great Trumpkin, Charlie Brown. And it goes through the Orange County's scariest people, and I was listed on this list. I was toward the bottom. Here it is, Vincent James, Fox. I get my last name incorrect there. After Trump's victory, the Lake Forest resident started an alt-right media collective, the Red Elephants, to advance conspiracy theories of a white genocide and cultural Marxism being major threats to this country. This was written, when was this written? October 26, 2017. This article started being passed around. And then in 2018, early 2018, October, November, I think it was like I think it was January of 2018. I was fired from my job. I was let go from my job. I was laid off. Called into the office for no reason. Now, if you just Google my name, you'll find ADL articles calling me a white supremacist, which I reject outright. First of all, I'm a Christian, and I think different races have different qualities that may or may not be socially superior, I guess is probably the wrong word to use, but I believe that all races have different qualities about them on average, right? I reject supremacy in all forms. But this is what I'm called by the ADL, right? I'm called white nationalist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi. So it's basically, so regular employment is off the list. Regular employment is off the list for me. And these people will do anything that they can to end your life, end your career, ruin your life completely. And this is something that a lot of you need to understand, is that I see these clips going around, right? I see these clips going around and this is not a shot at like all Proud Boys, because I know all Proud Boys aren't like this, but I see these clips going around of like these Proud Boys facing off with Antifa in Portland and in Seattle and some of these things. And I see some of these clips, and some of these clips depict the Proud Boys like shaking hands with Antifa and like hugging them and offering, peace with these people, and, trying to sit on the fence and trying to play both sides. These people want you dead. Their goal for me wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that they completely demonetized my channel, which I figured it out. I reached out to a company that got me some ads that I can do for myself. That wasn't enough for them. They had to take away the source of income that I used to support my 3 kids and family after I was fired from my job for telling the truth. I mean, that's plainly what it comes down to. They want to make sure that you never work in this town again. And not only that you never work in this town again, but that since it is largely males who are sort of the dissidents, right, in the movement, they want to make sure that they make you as depressed as possible so that you fucking kill yourself. That's their end goal. So it's like, dude, stop shaking their hands, stop offering peace, stop giving them a hug, stop sitting on the fence. These people want to see you and your family dead. These people are pedophiles. These people support pedophiles. In the case of Jacob Blake. And this was the last video that I posted on my channel, on my YouTube channel. These people will support pedophiles, people who raped teenagers, over someone who disagrees with them in their worldview, over someone who has a different political opinion. You have to realize that we are dealing with demonic and satanic people who are running this country. Demonic and satanic people who are at the top of the corporations, who pose a much larger threat, and it's not even close, than any foreign influence in the world. This is who we're dealing with. It just pains me to see this time and time and time again. And it pains me to see the GOP themselves somewhat rhetorically capitulate to the left and to Black Lives Matter by during this Republican National Convention, which I might say is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. A lot of these speeches are pretty good, especially Matt Gaetz, although that probably has a lot to do with who wrote his speech, which is Darren Beattie. Who is Darren Beattie? At the RNC, they're talking about, criminal justice reform and prison reform and all the things that they're doing for the black community, as if this is going to get them to stop rioting and stop looting and stop burning down our country. The only thing that they're going to respond to is force, is physical force and physical removal from civilization into prison. This is the only thing that they're actually going to respond to. It's not talking about criminal justice reform. It's not talking about the low black unemployment rate. They don't even care if the criminal is literally shooting at cops. In the case of Chicago, the guy pulled a gun and shot at cops, and they still looted and rioted on a Magnificent Mile, Michigan Avenue, looted luxury stores over a guy who shot at a cop. They said that looting these luxury stores are their reparations and that these companies have insurance. Our people are getting nothing. These people don't care that a man who never said hands up, don't shoot, charged at a police officer trying to take his gun to shoot him. They will still march in favor of that person because they share their skin color. It doesn't matter what the person did. And the question that I posed last time around when we talked about George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery is that what is the limit? Right? What is the limit for these people? Will these people, and I specifically asked this question, you can go to my BitChute channel and go back to this video. I specifically asked this question. I said, what would the limit be? Would they still riot and protest over a man who has a violent sexual assault on his record? Or a sexual assault of a child? Well, it looks like those questions have been fucking answered now, haven't they? Because this guy, Jacob Blake, who everyone's talking about from the mainstream media to politicians to Nancy Pelosi to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and all the rest of them and AOC, mainstream and dissident, these people are supporting someone who has a sexual offense charge on their record, likely of a teenager, who was brawling with police prior to the engagement, prior to the 14-second clip that went viral, and also probably had a knife and was reaching for something. We've all seen the videos of how quickly these people can pull guns from their waistband. We saw this in Detroit. In Detroit, what did they protest and riot over just 30 days ago? Well, in Detroit, they protested and rioted over a man who was shot by police, a man that we find out from the body camera footage that was released immediately, as it should be. He pulled a gun from his waistband and pointed it directly, point blank, at the head of a police officer, firing at him, attempting to execute him in broad daylight, and they still protested over him. People have to understand the gravity of the situation. This is a war. This is a war that we're in. For all of the talk about civil war and when will the civil war break out and where will the battle lines be drawn, the war has already started. It's time to wake up. These people want you dead. They want your children dead. They want your life ruined. And they want you to have zero capability to provide for those children so that you inevitably off yourself in your depression. But they will not fucking get me because I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take this to BitChute. I'm going to take this to DLive. I'm going to take this to our own website, theredelephants.com. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm not weak. They try to target people who they think are going to be weak, but a lot of us aren't weak, and we're never going to give up. I red-pilled a lot of people, apparently, according to many emails, hundreds of messages. A lot of people say you red-pilled my dad. I don't know if I'm, like, okay with everyone saying that you red-pilled my dad or you red-pilled my grandfather. Maybe I appeal to boomers because I'm, like, half boomer. I'm 34 years of... I'm not even old enough to run for president, but I'm a millennial, okay? And not only boomers, but I think I red-pilled a lot of other people as well of all ages. I think the majority of the viewership on my YouTube channel was, like, 18 to 35. That was the majority, like 80-90% of the viewership. So it's mostly young people. But I do have some alternative platforms. So I do have some alternative platforms that you guys can share videos from. We have BitChute, of course. I have 32,000. I've been building this because I've been expecting something like this to happen. So I've built up my BitChute, 32,651 subscribers. Let's refresh. Yeah, 651. DLive, which we have. Oops, hold on. DLive, which you're watching on right now. I don't have to pull up the link because you're literally watching on DLive right now. I also have Patreon and Subscribestar. Go support over there because I will be posting all of the deleted DLive streams to there. I'll be cutting up those clips, posting it onto BitChute. I'll also be doing exclusive. I'll probably reserve like BitChute and Subscribestar. I always get BitChute and Subscribestar mixed up. Subscribestar and Patreon for like the full unedited live streams that I do every day, and then also a lot of exclusive content as well, exclusive interviews, things that maybe I don't want to be on BitChute. I'll be posting on Patreon and Subscribestar. So if you can, support over there. If not, check the links in the description for other ways below the video there. So BitChute, Patreon, Subscribestar, DLive, Telegram. Telegram is a big one. I have about almost 15,000 followers over on Telegram. Instagram is another one. 30,000 followers over there on Instagram. I basically have been posting a lot of the like riot footage that has been happening since the death of George Floyd. Was able to grow an audience over there. F for the YouTube channel and the profile. They're going to have to change that. Here's an article that we have up on the redelephants.com, and it's called YouTube creators that have been, or YouTube channels that have been banned for hate speech and where to find them. Here's a list of top channels affected. Of course, me at the top this time. I had to update this morning. I had to update this this morning. Yeah, I did this morning after I found out. I didn't even know that my YouTube channels were banned until I just started getting like hundreds of messages. I actually woke up a little bit late because I was playing Fortnite with my son last night. And I woke up a little bit late and I got hundreds of messages about my YouTube channel being banned. And I was just like, oh, fuck. Anyway, I'm at the top of the list twice here. The Red Elephants, you have the BitChute channel there. The Vincent James of the Red Elephants, you have the DLive link there. Stefan Molyneux, Jared Taylor, Nick Fuentes. I have all the main source that you can find them at. So in the case of, I think, Stefan Molyneux, he has a BitChute channel. Jared Taylor, I linked to his... Where did I link to for Jared Taylor? I made sure that I linked... Oh, his website. Okay. I made sure that I linked to their primary source of content. Atheism is Unstoppable. He was a recent one that was banned. He had Colin Flaherty on his channel. I think he's like a liberal. But he had Colin Flaherty on his channel. Are you on Parler too? I am on Parler. I forgot to tell you that. Those links are right below you guys, by the way. Like right below the screen. It might only show if it's on... It might only show if you're watching on a PC. I don't know if it shows if you're watching on a phone, but I do have Parler, 7.4 thousand followers over there. But you guys can check this out. Have all the people who have been banned from YouTube recently. YouTube's becoming increasingly gay. And here's the thing about this. It's like you can have, like, YouTube will allow people who are outright communists. People who are outright communists, admittedly communists, like Vaush and others like him, who are advocating for anarchy and communism and Marxism in the country, which is by far the most deadly ideology that has ever plagued the planet in terms of body count. They can say whatever they want. They can deny the Holocaust. They can do whatever they want as long as they are not conservative in any way, shape, or form, or leaning to the right. They are not going to be under any threat of not only being taken down, but they're not going to be under any threat of being demonetized at all. We've seen the clips floating around. We've seen these people harassing teenagers in the case of Vaush, right? Harassing underage teenagers for sexual innuendos, things like this. This person's still monetizing you. We've seen the clips from Destiny, what he has said in the past. We've seen the clips from Hassan Piker and what he has said in the past that went, pretty mainstream in the news. These people are in no way, shape, or form under any threat of being demonetized by YouTube or being suppressed by YouTube or being deleted by YouTube. It's only people like us. It's only people who are offering useful information, useful opposition, actual opposition to what's going on in the country that are the ones that are targeted, and specifically targeted by the ADL. Donald Trump came out with a new platform for 2020, basically the same exact platform as last time, aside from a few things. Jobs, eradicate COVID-19, end our reliance on China. Lots of things about China in here. Healthcare, education, drain the swamp, defend our police, like that one. End illegal immigration and protect American workers. What about legal immigration? What about the immigration that's taking the jobs, the legal immigration that is removing American workers from their jobs and forcing them to either train foreign replacements or just being replaced outright by a cheaper labor force? Nothing on his platform about that, of course. Innovate for the future. Nothing in there about social media. America First foreign policy. I do like that one. But nothing in here about social media censorship. And I thought that at the very least there would be something. There would be something about social media censorship, Section 230, considering he himself was targeted by big tech. He himself was specifically targeted by big tech. I thought that there would be something on that, but there is nothing. Republicans have to realize that social media has to be the top one or number two issue for Republicans. Because without social media, there is no opposition to the mainstream media. So with, for instance, people like Matt Walsh and others in what we would describe as Conservative Inc. coming out and talking about this bombshell document filed by Hennepin County Medical Examiner, which concluded that George Floyd had fatal levels of fentanyl in his system and death would have been ruled an overdose under normal circumstances. Documents like these, tweets like these, will never get out there without social media. Do you see the mainstream media covering this document? Do you see the mainstream media covering the fact that Jacob Blake probably was reaching for a weapon or had a knife, or that Jacob Blake pointed a gun at people before, that Jacob Blake had a sexual assault charge on his record? Or the truth about the Covington Catholic kids? None of that would have been accomplished without social media, without dissidents on the right, without alternative platforms. We can never become a true opposing force as conservatives to what's going on in the country right now, which is broadly described as liberalism, leftism, whatever you want to call it, socialists, communists. We will never be able to become a true opposing force to this without social media. We don't have a seat at the table without social media. The table is only going to be reserved for people who share the same political beliefs. And those chairs are going to fall one by one by one by one. They think that it won't get them, but they're targeting the President of the United States of America, and no one is safe. This should be at the top of the list of the Trump agenda. Social media censorship, getting our ideas out there, sharing our ideas, combating the mainstream media narrative because no one else is going to. These journalists in mainstream media aren't going to. We've seen what they did. We've seen how they lie about these racialized and sensationalized events. We see how they completely outright withhold information about the BLM narrative in general. The Washington Post just wrote an article just the other day, and I went over this on my channel before it was deleted, and it was the Washington Post talking about Jacob Blake. And what they said, if I can find it here. Let me see. Washington Post. Jacob Blake. If I can find it here. I think I recall. Yeah, here it is. Opinion. The police who shot Jacob Blake prove that we need Black Lives Matter. Nothing in there about what happens when you adjust for the correct benchmark, which is crime. All disparities completely disappear. Nothing about the truth about the Black Lives Matter narrative in its entirety. So the only people who are going to offer any sort of logical, sensible information about current events are people on social media, dissidents on the right, conservatives more broadly. They have to realize that this is one of the most important issues, if not the most important issue in the country right now. Social media, access to the table, a seat at the table. We're going to go through this article here really quickly here since it did come up, and then we'll read through all the super chats. I have a couple of people in the call screening room. Maybe I'll take 2 callers. Court filings. Medical examiner thought George Floyd had fatal level of fentanyl in his system, which he did. This is something I've been talking about since this came out, since this happened. I mean, the first day that we found out that the toxicology report mentioned fentanyl, the first thing that I did was look up the average dosage found in victims who overdose from fentanyl. This was the first thing that I did. And the average dosage, found in the system of victims of fentanyl overdose is 9 nanograms per milliliter. George Floyd had 11 nanograms per milliliter in his system. Then come to find out, after Keith Ellison failed at hiding the body camera footage forever, which he tried to do, it was leaked by the Daily Mail, then come to find out that George Floyd complained that he was having trouble breathing 5 times before police took him to the ground. The police even mentioned that he was foaming at the mouth. So the first thing that I did was look up the symptoms of fentanyl overdose and the scientific studies regarding fentanyl overdose. And from what I found, the top symptom of fentanyl overdose is respiratory arrest, asphyxiation. Asphyxiation is the top symptom of fentanyl overdose. So it was most likely that he was complaining about this multiple times before police took him to the ground. He was resisting arrest the entire time, which was not the original narrative, if you recall. I know we have a short attention span in America, but this is what the original narrative was. He was not resisting, and police just took him to the ground and kneeled on his neck for no reason. But if we look at fentanyl overdose victims, we find a lot less fentanyl in their system, and so this makes it more likely that he gutted the drugs as he saw the police pull up behind him. He swallowed a bag of meth. He swallowed a bag of fentanyl as he saw the police behind him. Gutted it, and this is what he died from. Not to mention all the other health conditions that he had, which is also something that the mainstream media is not reporting on. Look up the health conditions that George Floyd had. I think there was a couple of arteries, very important arteries, and I'm not a doctor, that were 90% clogged. He had cardiovascular disease. He had heart disease. And now this comes out. And who do you think is going to share this? Do you think it's going to be Washington Post journalists who share a link to this Hennepin County document? Do you think it's going to be CNN journalists who link to the court filings showing that the medical examiner thought George Floyd had a fatal level of fentanyl in his system, which we all fucking knew? Do you think it's going to be MSNBC journalists who link to this story? No, it's going to be alternative media. The same alternative media that was responsible for the success that we saw in the Covington Catholic kids story. And now the mainstream media is quite literally repaying for their mistake, which was a deliberate attempt to shame and destroy the lives of these children, of these teens, who were basically attacked by this crazy Native American claiming to be a Vietnam veteran. It was alternative media who were able to have success in overturning the narrative about those particular children, which led to the settlements that they received from the Washington Post and the CNN. This would not have been done without us. My video on this, it came, I think it was the day I found the 2-hour live stream. I did a video on it on YouTube. 465,000 views. I was reached out to by Lynn Wood, one of the attorneys for the kids, asking if I wanted to put the documentary that they were creating on their YouTube channel. Unfortunately, I responded too late because I get so many emails. You know, this was all because of alternative media. This was all because of social media and the power that we have to oppose this, what's coming from the mainstream media and the rest of the transnational elites, these satanic individuals that run our country. Anyway, let's get to this really quickly here, and then we'll go through all the super chats, maybe take a couple of calls. Court filings, medical examiner thought George Floyd had a fatal level of fentanyl in his system. New exhibits filed in the case against the 4 former Minneapolis police officers accused of murdering George Floyd suggest the Hennepin County medical examiner thought George Floyd's fentanyl levels were at a potentially fatal level, but his and other medical examiners' findings showed he died of a combination of factors. And this was like the difference between the 2 autopsy reports. So you had one autopsy report that said basically initially what we all thought was really the case. Under pressure, they sort of changed the wording in that and made it like a combination of factors. This was the official Hennepin County autopsy report. Then they had Michael Baden, who is like a private forensic pathologist. They hired him to show the results that they wanted him to show. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hired him, right? He's a private forensic pathologist. And this was like the difference between those 2 particular autopsy reports. But this is also what the lawyers for the police are going to argue. And I showed you this, I think, on the video from this morning that got deleted by YouTube. It's up on my BitChute channel if you're interested. We are going to show cops were just doing their jobs. Attorney for one of the officers charged in George Floyd's death outlines his defense argument after claiming the black man killed himself by overdosing on fentanyl. Thomas Lane is one of the 3 officers charged with aiding and abetting murder in George Floyd's May 25th death. Another officer, Derek Chauvin, is charged with murder after body cam footage showed him kneeling on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes. Lane's attorney, Earl Gray, says he's going to prove that the cops were just doing their jobs in his defense argument. He plans to rely on toxicology and autopsy reports and body camera footage to prove his case. In a memorandum filed in the court on Monday, the attorney claimed that Floyd swallowed a lethal dose of fentanyl as he was resisting arrest. And this is true. All right, so let's get to some callers, and we'll go through the super chats there. I appreciate